according to a mainstream dietitian, the healthiest thing that you can order at McDonald's for lunch is, wait for it, the fried Crispy McChicken sandwich. In my opinion, this is probably the most unhealthy thing that you can order at McDonald's or any fast food restaurant. Any fried food is absolutely off the menu, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But let's dive into this news story. This is posted in eatthis.com by a registered dietitian. She says, as a dietitian, one key tenet of my nutrition philosophy is that any food is better than no food. One core tenet of my nutrition philosophy, I'm not a dietitian, I do have a master's degree in nutrition, is that healthy food is the main thing that you should strive for. And if you cannot access healthy food, just fast until you can access healthy food. That's my tenet. Like when you're traveling, I do not suggest having the peanuts and the chips and the cookies on the airplane. Just fast during the flight and then have a real meal when you get home. So that's my tenet. But she says, going on here, which is why you'll find me writing a lot about healthy fast food options. She's also a mother, which is curious because she recommends some things for her children. And I'll just say my child has never eaten at McDonald's or a fast food restaurant in her entire life. I'll take that back. We went to Burger Master one time during COVID. We took half the bun off. So she had one half of a bun, but we've never been to a fast food restaurant, and she's very healthy, very fit, much stronger physically than most adults and her peers. And so I attribute her nutrition to that success. Going on, she says, in the world that we live in, many of us are incredibly busy, and it's more than likely that you'll find yourself out and about hungry. And I'll be honest, at the end of a long day when I'm exhausted and my decision-making skills are tapped out, the golden arches start looking pretty good at McDonald's. So while I don't recommend eating McDonald's every day, it can absolutely be a part of an overall healthy diet. Okay, so here's what her options are for breakfast. The Egg McMuffin sandwich. Now, what would I get for breakfast? I would honestly just ask them for the cheeseburger with no bun. I might get 3 or 4 patties, no bun, maybe a little cheese. The cheese is very questionable. Even the meat at fast food restaurants is only about 30 to 40% actual meat. A lot of it is filler and things like that. So you're not even getting good quality meat at that, but you definitely do not want the English muffin and the fake cheese and things like that. But what I think is quite interesting in her analysis here is she's highlighting in brackets the unhealthy and the good items. For example, she's saying the reason why this Egg McMuffin sandwich makes sense from a dietetic perspective is it has 3 grams of fiber. 3 whole grams and only 2 grams of sugar, which is nice. It's low in sugar. A breakfast sandwich shouldn't have a lot of sugar. She also highlights the saturated fat, and that's where we're going to pause and deviate from this news story and share with you just this screenshot of an analysis that we've covered in other videos titled Evidence from Randomized Controlled Trials Do Not Support the Introduction of Dietary Fat Guidelines in 1977 and 1983, a systematic review and meta-analysis. This is by Zoe Harkambi, and essentially, we don't have a lot of good evidence to suggest that saturated fat significantly raises your risk for cardiovascular and coronary artery disease. There's a lot of fear-mongering from this, from opinion leaders and so forth from Harvard and the whole McGovern report back in the 1970s. You can read the book Big Fat Surprise to learn more about that if you would like. But really not a lot of good evidence that we should be avoiding saturated fat in terms of changing our cardiovascular risk profile. But that said, she highlights here that she even swaps out the bacon here. She goes on to say, by choosing the Canadian bacon over sausage, I'm saving 4 grams of saturated fat and a lot of greasiness, which doesn't always sit well with my stomach. So, okay, you can get bacon instead of sausage, whatever, it doesn't really matter, both of which are processed. Generally, we do suggest avoiding processed meat, but if you have a little bacon or a little Canadian bacon or sausage, probably not the end of the world. But again, you can see her slant here, and that is anti-saturated fat. But let's go on to her recommendations for lunch. What is it? The McCrispy chicken sandwich. Now, lest I remind you, we've talked a lot about the deleterious effects of consuming ultra-processed foods, particularly fried foods. And a fried chicken sandwich is not something that anyone would recommend. And I can't believe a dietitian is recommending this. Again, it really goes to speak to the anti-meat bias from mainstream healthcare practitioners as well as dietitians. And so for whatever reason, we have deemed chicken okay, even if it's fried, and we put that in the hierarchy of healthier foods above grass-fed or just conventionally raised feedlot beef. I would put feedlot beef over feedlot chicken all day long. Chicken, from a commercial standpoint, is, in my opinion, incredibly unhealthy. They're fed genetically modified soy, corn, canola. These chickens are in warehouses. They never see dirt. They never touch dirt. They're on concrete. They don't see sunlight. They're slaughtered after 12 to 14 weeks. In contrast, even feedlot cattle are out in dirt, they're out in nature, they're seeing sunlight, they're supporting a lot of body mass, they have better quality muscle compared to the chicken. So from that standpoint, plus you're getting more carnitine, creatine, and a lot of other zinc and other nutrients that you're not getting in chicken. So I think that's important to acknowledge. So when given the option, when you're going to McDonald's, just get the burger without the bun. But she says for lunch or dinner, the Crispy McChicken sandwich wins every time. I love the simple flavor combination of a fried chicken patty and pickles. Nutritionally, it has enough protein and calories to keep me full for several hours and has just 5 grams of saturated fat. See, here we go again. The bias is being infused into these recommendations as though there is some sort of ample evidence to suggest that saturated fat is bad, which, as you know, we really don't have good data to say that we should be avoiding saturated fat. One thing she says that she doesn't love about this sandwich is that from a nutritional standpoint, one sandwich has 50% of the recommended sodium limit. As someone who is pretty active and often uses hydration drinks after workouts anyway, I feel okay eating a meal with this much sodium. However, if someone wants to limit their sodium intake, I would recommend eating this order sparingly and being extra aware of the sodium in other meals throughout the day. Now, before we go on and talk about her dessert recommendations, I just want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate your likes, your comments, your shares. Let me know in the comment section what you think about these crazy recommendations. And since we're talking about exercise, hydration, and the differences between creatine content in red meat versus chicken, I just want to remind you, if you exercise, a great tool that can enhance your exercise sessions are the novel creatine enhanced electrolytes by Myoscience. Each serving of the electrolyte sticks contain 2.6 grams of pure creatine monohydrate, along with electrolyte minerals like sodium, potassium, magnesium, as well as taurine. You can save using the code podcast at myoscience.com. There's over 785 reviews from people just like you who are using these during their exercise sessions or after their sauna sessions to replenish the minerals lost during exercise and to enhance their exercise performance. Again, you can save by going to myoscience.com and use the code podcast at checkout. So going back to the dessert recommendations at McDonald's. Now, let's just be honest. You don't want to waste your calories, maybe the 5 or 10% of the discretionary calories that you might have during a given week at McDonald's. If you're going to have a treat, have some Honey Mamas, make your own ice cream at home using raw milk. But anyway, what does she recommend? She says a vanilla ice cream cone. Now, it has 23 grams of sugar. And she says, as someone with a self-diagnosed sweet tooth, I love how simple and satisfying the vanilla soft serve ice cream cone at McDonald's is. It's just enough to satisfy a sweet craving without additional unnecessary calories, added sugars, or saturated fat. Again, she talks about saturated fat. So what do we have in this ice cream cone? Well, it's very low in fat, only 5 grams total. And it has 33 grams of carbs. So there's a lot of sugar and processed carbs and things like that, which make it, probably less satiating, less filling. Part of what makes ice cream so unique is you're pairing sweet with fat. And so you just have a lot of sweet here, very rich in sugar. But again, I think it's quite interesting that a dietitian is not recommending, even if she is going to recommend the soft serve ice cream, right? Why not opt to get that in a cup? Why would you get that in a cone? My daughter and I, every so often, maybe every 3 weeks or something after we do a hard workout, we might get ice cream from Salt and Straw or Molly Moon's. These are local ice cream shops here in Washington that pride themselves on, getting more healthy ingredients and things like that. They're still really high in sugar, so we don't eat it often, but we always get it in a cup. You don't need to get the extra sugar and carbs from the cone. That's, of course, a highly processed food source, the ice cream cone. So you don't want to get that. So I just think that the mainstream dietetics community really does not have a good grasp on relevant and timely nutrition-related recommendations. I mean, the fact that they're recommending a fried chicken sandwich and an ice cream cone as the best options, and the fact that this story was picked up by Daily Mail, picked up by New York Post and other mainstream media outlets, just goes to show that the media and the editorial boards, as well as dietitians and mainstream medical professionals really are behind the times when it comes to nutritional recommendations. So again, my recommendations, if you have to eat fast food, is just order the burger, the patty, take the bun off, and don't have the fried stuff. You don't want to have all that. We talk a lot about, how seed oils probably have a lot of deleterious effects, particularly on the brain, possibly because they're stored in fat tissue, because the high linoleic acid content and the readily ability for them to become oxidized. You don't want to have deep fried foods from a restaurant of any kind, whether it's a fried chicken sandwich or sweet potato fries or French fries, really not good. And so I just think it's a little bit questionable that this dietitian is recommending as the healthiest option a fried chicken sandwich for lunch along with an ice cream cone. Definitely not something that I would recommend. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I'm grateful that you tuned all the way through. Appreciate your likes, your comments, your shares. We'll catch you on a future video down the road.